Hi everyone, this is Ross Sharma and I'm going to show you some of the features of the SettingsReader class module. So I'm set up here with a worksheet with some data over here in the sheet called Settings, and I have my class module SettingsReader loaded into my VBA project. So I'm going to write a sub test here, and I'm going to instantiate the SettingsReader. So dim settings as new SettingsReader. Now, when you create a SettingsReader object, you have to give it a reference to the worksheet that contains all your settings. So in our case, it's this sheet over here, or sheet 1. So settings.worksheet equals sheet 1. So now we're ready to read our settings. For example, if you wanted the server, I could do that by doing settings.getSetting server. Now this is going to return to me a range. GetSetting always returns a range. It's going to return to me cell B1. So what I'm going to have it do is select whatever it returns to me. So if I, for example, go over here and I run test, it'll select B1. So this returned the correct range. And then if I put port, as you might expect, it returns B2. Now suppose I wanted this table of users. If I put users over here and I run this, it'll select this entire table. And it doesn't matter the fact that there is an empty row over here or before it. I can just take these all together. It'll still figure out the correct range for this users table. So if I run that, you see it got the correct range. So I'll put those rows back. So basically GetSetting can return to you a single cell or a range of cells on your settings sheet. But there's also a lot of convenience methods in this module, and I'm going to show you some of those. For example, we have this list of banned users over here. Now suppose I'm writing some code and I don't really care to have a range of banned users. I want a collection of strings. So for that we have a convenience method. So I'll remove this getSetting call and I'll put in getCollection. And now I put in the name of my setting, which is banned users. And .select doesn't make sense anymore. So let's assign this. So let's call it dim collection. I can't call it that. Dim C set C equal to settings.getCollection, and then we'll look in the locals window to see what it contains. So I'll step through here. Okay, so let's see what C has. It has item 1, item 2, item 3, Joe, Tiny, and Dragon. So these are these strings that were put into a collection. And there's also the mapping function. So you see that we have this list of users mapped to their passwords. So let's say I wanted a dictionary, scripting.dictionary. So let's do that. Settings.getMapping, and the mapping is users. So we're going to map the username to their passwords. And let's see what that gives us. I'm going to step through, and let's take a look at D here. You can see D is a dictionary, and if you don't know about the dictionary, I highly recommend you research that. Scripting.dictionary. It's very useful. But for those of you who do know about it, you see that item 1 is root, item 2 is Bob, and item 3 is Carl. So the usernames are the keys, or whatever is in the first column of your setting is your keys, and then the values would be your the second column of your setting. So I could access all these values by simply doing d at, for example, root, and I can do that. Okay, let's do actually all of them. So d at root, d at Bob, d at Carl, and you can see here that these usernames are mapped to their passwords. So root is mapped to admin, Bob is mapped to my password, Carl is mapped to ASDF1234. Next, something that I've encountered is that sometimes when you're developing something, you want to use some test values. So for that, for example, I have this test server here. What I've done here is I've taken this server, this setting name server, and I've prefixed it with _test_. And now if I go into my code and I do settings.useTestValues equals true, and let's get rid of this and this. Okay, So use test settings is equal to true. So this is going to override server with test server because of that prefix. So if I do settings dot get setting server, and we'll just have it print out what that is. So message box of that. Let's see what it gives us. Localhost, it actually got the test value. And now if I were to remove this, it would fall back to the original value. So basically when you turn use test values on, it doesn't mean that all your values need to have a test value. It just means that those of them that have the test prefix will be overriding the original value. And then finally, let's take a look at this setting over here, some worksheet name, data. So you see that data matches this worksheet name over here, data. So what I could do is get a reference to this worksheet using only this setting name. So for that, let's do dim ws as worksheet, and then set ws equal to settings. Now here's the thing here, settings.get setting, get worksheet by name. Now I give it the setting name, not the worksheet name. So some worksheet name is what we want. And okay, so there we go. I don't know if you can see all that. So there you go. Settings.get worksheet by name, and then I give it the setting name. And then let's just do ws.activate and see what happens. We run this, and you see that it activated data. So get worksheet by name gives you a worksheet by its name, as specified here. Also, a thing to note here is that it looked for this worksheet name data in the current workbook, in this workbook, but get worksheet by name also takes a second argument, optionally, workbook. And if you want to look for this worksheet name in a different workbook, you can specify that other workbook optionally. Now let's take a look at this over here, some address. So we're going to keep the worksheet because we're going to need it. And let's do this. Settings.get cell by address, get range by address, some address. So we're going to be using this. So get range by address is going to give us a reference to the address that's specified over here, but we also have to specify a workbook in which to look for this address. So the second argument is the worksheet, which we have from previously. Now I'm going to have to do something with this call. It returns me a range, so let's have it print out. Let's just assign it to a variable, and we're going to take a look at it in the locals window. So set RNG equal to that. I'm going to run. Okay, let's take a look at RNG. Actually, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. So RNG.address, and let's have that message box. K2, okay. Let's do MSG box RNG.worksheet.name. Data. So it gave me, what did it give me here? It gave me K2 on the sheet data. So that's how that works. And then some position. If I do, instead of some address, I use some position, and I would have to call get cell by position. Let's see what happens here. Again, it got K2 because it went to row 2, column 11. So that's how some position works. Row 2, column 11, worksheet.name data, because it works the same way as get cell by address. You specify the worksheet as the second argument. So that's all for now. I mean, there are a few other features, minor things like turning on and off case sensitivity and caching, just to increase performance. But I'll show you those things in later videos. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. Thanks.